Hello, and welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. The topic for this month's show is Carl Sagan. And here to talk to us all about it is our guest from the Warren Astronomical Society, Ken Bertin. Ken, welcome back to the show.
And I am as happy as can be to be here. It's always
Great.
wonderful to do this.
All right, well, I guess we're going to start out with Carl's early life.
Yes. Carl was, let me do this real quickly here. Carl was born in Brooklyn, New York on November the 9th, 1934. He was a graduate of Rahway High School in New Jersey in 1951. He enrolled in the University of Chicago. There he earned 3 degrees, a bachelor's degree in 55, a master's degree in 56, and both in physics and in 1960 a doctorate in astronomy and astrophysics. He had a brilliant mind with an astonishing IQ of 170 and was not just a scientist. He was a visionary who unraveled the mysteries of the cosmos and its profound narrative. He grew up in New York and in Brooklyn. He was raised by an Eastern European immigrant Jewish parents. Born in 1934, he was in New York when members of his extended family in Eastern Europe died during the Holocaust. His best-known scientific contribution is his research on the possibility of extraterrestrial life, including experimental demonstrations of the production of amino acids from basic chemicals by exposure to light. He assembled the first physical messages sent into space, the Pioneer Plaque and the Voyager Golden Record, which were universal messages that could potentially be understood by any extraterrestrial intelligence that might find them. The Golden Records carried on Voyager 1 and 2 space now are in interstellar space. They departed the solar system and are traveling into the vast expanse of space between the stars. He argued in favor of the hypothesis, which has since been accepted, that the high surface temperature of Venus are the result of the greenhouse effect. Initially an assistant professor at Harvard, Sagan later moved to Cornell University, where he spent most of his career. He published more than 600 scientific papers and articles and was author and co-author or editor of more than 20 books.
So he was really quite busy through his professional life.
Exactly right. He was a dynamic individual and garnished a lot of opinions that sometimes were questioned, but most of the time he got it right. Let's move on. He wrote many popular science books, many of them, such as The Dragons of Eden, Speculations on the Evolution of Human Intelligence, was in his 1977 book, in which Sagan combines the field of anthropology, evolutionary biology, psychology, and computer science to give a perspective on how human intelligence may have evolved. Second book was Broca's Brain, title essay named in honor of the French physician, anatomist, and anthropologist Paul Broca. He was best known for his discovery that different functions are assigned to different parts of the brain. He believed that by studying the brains of cadavers and correlating the known experiences of the former owners of the organs, human behavior could eventually be discovered and understood. Kind of cool. To that end, he saved hundreds of human brains in jars of formalin, it's called. Among the collection is his own brain. That was the original guy. He posed questions as how much man known as Paul Broca can still find in his jar. It's kind of funny. Question that evokes both religious and scientific argument.
Definitely.
Then he wrote the book The Pale Blue Dot in 1994, where Sagan traces the spellbinding history of our launch into the cosmos and accesses the future that looms before us as we move into into our own solar system and onto distant galaxies. The fourth book was The Damon Haunted World in 1995, in which he explains scientific method to lay people. He also co-wrote and narrated the award-winning television series Cosmos.
My favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
it was
personal voyage, which became one of the most widely watched series in the history of American public television. Cosmos has been seen by at least 500 million people in 60 countries. A book called Cosmos was published to accompany the series. He also wrote a science fiction novel called Contact, which became the basis of the 1997 book. Those were the things that he wrote. Many of the things that he wrote in Cosmos, his papers comprising 595 items, are archived in the Library of Congress. So, an interesting fellow.
Indeed.
Let me just go back here 1 second. Sometimes these things do not play right? Okay, there we go. All right. Anyway, Sagan played a leading role in American space program from its very beginning. He was a consultant and advisor to NASA beginning in the 1950s. He even briefed the Apollo astronauts before their flights to the moon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So this was a man that was very much involved.
For such a young man at that time.
A young man at the time, that's
Yeah.
right. Now, Carl Sagan's biggest accomplishment is widely considered to be his ability to effectively communicate complex scientific ideas to a broad audience, particularly through his popular science books and the groundbreaking television series Cosmos. This series, which explored the history of science and civilization, became the most watched public television series at the time, reaching over, like we said, 500 million viewers in 60 countries. Beyond his popular science work, Sagan made significant contributions to planetary science, including research that helped explain the high temperatures of Venus and the reddish haze of Titan, the big moon of Saturn.
Yes.
By the way, Saturn now has 187 of them or something like that.
They keep adding up, don't they?
Doesn't it something? He also played a crucial role in co-founding the Planetary Society, an organization that continues to advocate for space exploration and funding. Sagan's legacy is marked not only by his scientific achievements, but also by his ability to inspire a passion for science and critical thinking in countless individuals. An amazing man.
Yeah, great impact on young people at the time, like you say, from the 50s and 60s through the 90s.
No question about it. He was an amazing individual. Sagan was a popular public advocate of skeptical science inquiry and scientific method. He pioneered the field of exobiology and promoted the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It's called SETI, S-E-T-I. As said, he spent most of his career as a professor of astronomy at Cornell University, and he directed the Laboratory of Planetary Studies. Sagan and his works received numerous awards and honors. For instance, won the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal. It's the highest honor given by NASA. He had National Academy of Sciences Public Welfare Medal, the Academy's most prestigious award. Presently, annually to recognize the extraordinary use of science and the public good. Okay, and he also got the Pulitzer Prize for general nonfiction. So this was a man that was really in it. He was born, like I said, in November of '34. His mother was Rachel Molly Gruber, his housewife in New York City. His father, Samuel Sagan, was a Ukrainian garment worker. Give you an idea.
So he really came up in the world, coming to the U.S., and it just allowed him to flourish.
It's absolutely amazing. The numbers of things, the honors that he's received has been just spectacular.
Well, Ken, we're going to have to take a quick break right here.
That's great. Good.
And if you have a question, please send us an email. The address, as always, is down at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be back with the rest of this amazing discussion after we hear Term of the Month with Stephen.
Thanks, Don. The term of the month is AMI Fix. The James Webb Space Telescope Aperture Masking Interferometer is an Australian instrument that combines light from multiple patches on the telescope's main mirror with interferometry. It is used to get sharper images of stars and exoplanets. Shortly after the start of operations, it was discovered that noise was getting into images. The issue is that electrical charge in the camera pixel can bleed into neighboring pixels. It's the brighter, fatter effect. This has similar effects to the Hubble Space Telescope main mirror spherical aberration. Software was used then to reduce the effect for the Hubble Space Telescope until corrective optics were installed. Analogous software has been produced for this instrument on the James Webb. The software observations are based on simulations to determine how much bleeding takes place so that it can be subtracted. No spacewalks needed at L2. Sharper than ever images of faint objects have been achieved, pushing the boundaries of the James Webb's capabilities. The aperture masking interferometer is one of 5 observing modes in the near-infrared imager and slitless spectrograph. The AMI uses a non-redundant mask. The prototype is shown. There are 7 holes which align with outer segments of the main mirror array. All of these are used, and the resulting image is produced from resulting fringe data. There are also 4 narrowband infrared filters, one of which is used at a time with the mask, presumably based on the object being observed. And that is the term of the month, AMI Fix. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Stephen. We're back with our guest, Ken Bertin, and our discussion on Carl Sagan. So, Ken, where do we go next?
Well, we go to his education. He was at the in the University of Chicago yearbook of 1954. Sagan attended a junior high school called Brody in the native Basinhertz, and he had his bar mitzvah when he was 13 in 1948. His father took his family to an older semi-industrial town of Rahway, New Jersey. He was a straight-A student, but was bored with his classes. It really didn't challenge him. His teachers suggested that he be put into a private school, he was very gifted, but his parents couldn't afford it. So that kept him around in the area to the Rahi School, which he graduated in 1951. He was involved with the chancellors at schools and things like that at the whole time. He was a very, very, very ambitious kid, but he was really wanted to be in astronomy. That's what his thing was. For all the other things, he wanted to know about the physical studies of the planets. During his graduate studies, he spent the summer months with Gerald P. Kuiper, who was his dissertation director, if you want to call it that.
Of Kuiper Belt fame.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
That's the guy. As well as the physicist George Gamow, and that's Gamow, but it is Moff. I'm sorry, but I like to do that. And chemist Melvin Calvin. The title of Sagan's dissertation reflected interests he had in common with Kuiper, for example, and he had been president of the International Astronomical Union Commission on the physical studies of planets and satellites. He worked on many scientific things, the next thing we really talk about is career in his research.
Okay.
In 1960 to 62, Sagan was a Miller Fellow at the University of California in Berkeley. Meanwhile, he published an article in 61 on the Journal of Science on the atmospheres of Venus. He also worked on NASA's Mariner 2 team. He served as a planetary sciences consultant to the RAND Corporation. After publication of Sagan's science article in 1961, Harvard University astronomers Fred Whipple and Donald Menzel offered Sagan the opportunity to give a colloquium at Harvard and subsequently offered him a lecturer position at the institution. Sagan instead asked to be made an assistant professor, which he was refused, but he did give lectures and advised graduate students at the institution from 63 till 68, as well as working at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was denied the academic tenure at Harvard, and later indication was very unexpected. He had a couple of enemies there that didn't like his outward way. There was a guy named Harold Urey who wrote that he really didn't feel that tenure was proper for Sagan.
And so that's what had him move then to
The Cornell
Cornell.
Institute as an all-time. Long before the ill-fated tenure process, Cornell University astronomer Thomas Gold had courted Sagan to move to Ithaca, New York, and join the recently hired astronomer Frank Drake among the faculty at Cornell. Following the denial of tenure from Harvard, Sagan accepted the Gold's offer and remained a faculty member of Cornell for nearly 30 years until his death in 1996. Unlike Harvard, the smaller and more laid-back astronomy department at Cornell welcomed Sagan's growing celebrity status. That was very, very important, and of course, he directed the Laboratory of Planetary Studies there. From 72 to 81, he was associate director of the Center of Radiophysics and Space Research at Cornell. In 1976, he became the David Duncan Professor of Astronomy and Space Sciences, a position he held for the remainder of his life. Sagan wrote a piece in Demon Haunted World in 1995. Science was more than a body of knowledge, it was a way of thinking. I have foreboding of the American and my children's and grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the key manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries.
kind of prescient, wasn't it?
That's what he was,
Yeah.
right? And when awesome technological powers were in the hands of very few, he had issues with it, obviously. He consulted about horoscopes at times about it.
Really?
And one of the fine things about him is he linked astrology to astronomy, understanding that in the early going, astronomers were hired by the royalty to figure out what the weather was and all that other because of the ecliptic and so on and so forth and the zodiac.
The two were hand in hand. Back,
and it was
back in the
very,
day.
very important to the future of astronomy. And that's one of the wonderful aspects of him. And Sagan associated with the U.S. space program from its inception, like we said. From 1950 onward, he worked as an advisor to NASA, where one of the duties included briefing Apollo astronauts before their flights to the moon. Sagan contributed to many robotic spacecraft missions that explored the solar system, arranging experiments on many of the expeditions. Sagan assembled the first physical message that was sent into space. We talked about it, the gold-plated plaque attached to the space probe Pioneer 10. And then it launched in 72 to Jupiter. Pioneer the 11 also carried another copy of the plaque, which launched the following year. And he was an amazing guy in that regard as well. His scientific achievements, for example. Former student David Morrison described Sagan as an ideal person and a master of intuitive physical arguments and the back of the envelope calculations. And Gerald Kuiper said that some persons work best in specializing on a major program in the laboratory. Others are best at a liaison between scientists. Dr. Sagan belongs in that later group. His contributions were central to the discovery of the high surface temperature of Venus. He just continued to find other things as offshoots of it. He was an amazing character. I will tell you that Sagan was the first to hypothesize that Saturn moon Titan, for example, might possess oceans of liquid compounds on its surface.
And he was very much correct. Yeah,
And he was
methane
right.
and ethane.
And then Jupiter's moon Europa might possess the subsurface oceans of water. Fabulous
correct.
stuff. He was amazing as far as how he looked at it. He said that the greenhouse effect was runaway on Venus, for example, and all these things came to the
was
way.
right.
Now there was one very important point. He is the 1994 recipient of the Public Welfare Medal, a distinguished contributions in the applications of science to the public welfare. He was denied membership in the Academy reportedly because his media activities made him unpopular with many other scientists. And in 2017, Sagan is the most cited SETI scientist and one of the most cited planetary scientists. Amazing man.
20 years after his death.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
He popularized science on TV with Cosmos. Obviously, there were, like we said, lots of countries that have seen that as well. And I'm going to give you a fact that he came up with, which I love, and he may put it up on there. There are 47 quadrillion grains of sand on the Earth. 47 quadrillion, okay? For every grain of sand on the Earth, there are 24,000 stars.
Oh my.
So that means when you go to the beach and you go into the water or you go anywhere like that, you pick up one grain, that's 24,000 stars in the universe. Amazing figure. Let me go on to another one. There is also the scientific and critical thinking advocacy. He popularized the cosmic calendar as a method to visualize the chronology of the universe, scaling the current age of 13.8 billion years to a single year to help intuit it for pedagogical reasons, or pedagogical, I don't remember that, purposes. Sagan's ability to convey his ideas allowed many people to understand the cosmos better, simultaneously emphasizing the value and the worthiness of human life. And he delivered creature after feature after feature. He had potential intelligent extraterrestrial life forms. He was so persuasive that in 1982 he was able to get a petition advocating SETI publishing a journal Science signed by 70 scientists, including 7 Nobel Prize winners.
In about the minute that we have left, Ken,
Yep.
what can we say that really summarizes Mr. Sagan?
Well, the thing about it is he was always involved in critical studies of other scientists like Plato and Pythagoras and Democritus. He had problems with many of the things they came with. He was married 3 times, just quickly. The last wife was Anne Duran, which he worked with Cosmos on. And he's got a son from that and such. He was involved in so many things, so much, that there's a list of the publications that have him involved in it, and it's 4 pages long, and it's small print, and it's stunning. Carl Sagan died in 1996. He had, let me get down here and just get that real quick. He, after suffering a myelodysplasia for 2 years and receiving 3 bone marrow transplants from his sister, Sagan died from pneumonia at the age of 62 at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle in December 20th, 1996. He was buried at Lakeview Cemetery in Ithaca, New York.
Ken, I want to thank you so much for bringing so much of Carl Sagan, his work, and his life to our audience. So I want to thank you for doing that. Please check out our club website. The address is down there at the bottom of your screen. And coming up next to finish out the show is Stephen with What's Up in the Night Sky.
Thanks, Don. What's up in the night sky for November 2025? The sun goes from Libra to Ophiuchus this month. Nearby planets to the sun are Mercury, Mars, and Venus. Now, we're heading to the solstice, that's in December. So the days are already getting to be as short or as long as they're going to be. November 5th has the full moon, so that's the start of the moons for the month. Third quarter is on the 12th, new moon is on the 20th, and the first quarter is on the 28th at the end of the month. So then we have, and this is shown on the 1st of November, we have Mercury, Mars shown at sunset. Mercury is in Scorpius going to Libra. It rises from 2 hours before sunrise to 2 hours after sunset, and that's because inferior conjunction, something Mercury does a lot, is on November 20th. Perihelion is on the 23rd, so that's when Mercury is closest to the Sun. So it's both behind the Sun, or actually in front of the Sun, and close to it. So it's going to be a tough Mercury month. And then we have Mars, which goes from Libra to Ophiuchus and sets from an hour after sunset to half an hour after sunset. So Mars is falling into the Sun, as it does very slowly. Then we have Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto shown here on the 18th of November, and 2 hours after sunset. Uranus is in Taurus, and it has opposition this month on the 21st, so it's up all night. Neptune is in Pisces and sets from 3 to 5 hours before sunrise. And so Neptune requires at least binoculars, so it's better with a dark sky. But it is pretty easy to spot. Saturn is in Aquarius and sets from 4 hours to 6 hours before sunrise. Pluto is in Capricornus and sets 5 hours after sunset to 3 hours after sunset. Now, Pluto is getting closer to the Sun. It's a really faint object. You need a decent telescope, 13 inches, I think, or 12 inches anyway. So you might consider waiting till April. You know, April to sort of November is Pluto watching season. Venus, then we have Venus and Mercury shown at the end of the month, just before sunrise. Venus is farther from the Sun on the 1st, and it's easier to see Venus before sunrise than after. Venus goes from Virgo to Libra and rises from an hour before sunrise and stays right about an hour before sunrise. Venus does weird things like that. Jupiter is in Gemini and rises from 5 to 3 hours after sunset. You can also see Jupiter in the late evening. Now, November 17th, we have the Leonid meteor shower, and it peaks then on the 17th. Dress super warm, especially in the northern hemisphere, and keep your eyes open. It could be good. And that is what's up in the night sky for November 2025. Now, remember, we don't charge money for this show, but we may tax your brain.